The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
And it's time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick. Happy Monday.
Hey, good morning.
Hi. So in Texas, regulators did a filing on Friday, and it's kind of confusing, a little bit confusing for the average person here. So maybe you could break it down. And it has something to do with Voyager's, with a $445 million loan claimed by Alameda to Voyager, which is a lender, if you know, get all confusing here. But what does it have to do with Binance and making this deal happen or not happen?
Yeah, so it's worth remembering that last week was the objection deadline for Voyager's planned sale of its assets to Binance US. Texas regulators, Texas securities regulators specifically, objected on a number of grounds, one of which is the fact that Alameda might have a plausible claim over some of Voyager's assets or to a loan, made through Voyager. So the regulators are warning that, if the sale goes through and Alameda's bid to reclaim these assets is successful, then
the sale to Binance US, which is right now what's being filed. So so if the sale goes through, take it away.
Right. Yeah. So if the sale goes through and the Alameda claims are deemed credible, there's every possibility that Voyager's users are not going to get the amount they're currently being promised under the terms of this sale. So that's one of the concerns. Another concern is that Binance US might be in violation of certain U.S. regulations, according to these Texas regulators. They've claimed that Binance US's staking program might not be, a typical staking program. It might be in violation of securities law in and of itself. For examples of that, we only have to look at Kraken, which had a similar run-in with federal regulators, just a few weeks ago. So you can kind of see where, Binance US might have similar issues. Texas regulators are also concerned about Binance US's independence from Binance.com. And, again, we only have to look a few weeks ago when Reuters had this groundbreaking report that said Binance Global had access to Binance US's bank account back in 2021. So there's a number of objections from these Texas regulators. They seem to be pushing for Voyager to convert its Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which suggests that it might come back one day, to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy where it'll just liquidate all of its assets and sell everything off and send the money back to creditors and users.
So this sounds like Texas, in other words, really, really doesn't want Binance US to buy Voyager or its assets at all. That, in fact, it might be about $400-something million underbidding because this big loan is outstanding. So unless if they're not factoring that in, this is only half as good for Voyager creditors is basically the underlying theme here. Plus they might be in trouble with regulators. Just in terms of,
and there will be a hearing this week too, where I imagine this is going to come up. But there will be a hearing this week where the judge is going to take a look at objections and also look at how the actual creditors are voting. And here it's also worth remembering that most of the Voyager creditors have voted in favor of the sales so far. That's as of last week, when an attorney for Voyager said that something like 97% of the Voyager customers have said, we want to move forward with this particular sale.
Interesting. If they end up selling the assets, I'd be curious to know if they, in other words, not as a going concern, but if they liquidate, whether or not Binance would still be able to purchase them.
Yeah,
well,
good question.
Nick, want to switch topics here. Also last week, the G20 meetings were happening, and over the weekend, an announcement was made regarding some global crypto rules. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so this is coming out of our colleague Amitabh Singh in India. The G20 is going to work on a synthesis paper for global crypto regulation. This will be the G20 in conjunction with the International Monetary Fund and the Financial Stability Board. And India, which currently holds the presidency of the G20, says that this synthesis paper could form the basis for global crypto regulations moving forward. We don't have too much more detail at this point. It sounds like it's still fairly early days, but this idea of a global crypto regulatory regime has been bouncing around for years now, and we've had various international and intergovernmental entities try and tackle that, such as the Financial Action Task Force. So it'll be interesting to see, what the synthesis paper addresses, which is, issues and topics it addresses. But it sounds like this is moving forward. We'll have a bit more of a sense of how international regulators might cooperate to try and put some, reins on this particular, sector.
Would you say that it leans conservative in terms of the International Monetary Fund? I mean, they had a statement last week saying that, an outright ban on cryptocurrencies is not ruled out. They also were not enthusiastic about tax collection, definitely did not want Bitcoin as legal tender in different countries. The Financial Stability Board, where do they lean, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be fairly, if not strict, at least, slightly prescriptive as far as a lot of these regulations are going to get concerned. And it's also worth remembering that India in particular has not been a huge fan of crypto in the past, and right now has a tax regime in place which many local crypto users credit as not taking the industry, but taking it down quite a bit, taking down volume and activity. So whatever this ends up being, it will probably be less friendly than the crypto industry would want, but the IMF, the FSB are probably going to point to things like the FTX collapse, all the lenders, all the what's called we call them disasters. Well, I'm not calling this disasters, but all the disasters of the last couple of years, and say, yeah, like we need to put these rules in place to protect people from these con artists and scammers, and even just technical ineptitude. How that's going to actually shake out. Maybe they'll look at stable coins, maybe they'll look at taxes, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there for these regulators.